They might talk about humor, music, film, books, football and box sets, exercise and maybe even food, trivia and sport, politics and health, sometimes well-being too. On the Life with Brian. On the Life with Brian.
Here we are again. Welcome to Life with Brian from me, Mark. Of course, I've got Choccy with us. Hello, Choccy. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you very much, sir.
Good. Matthew's obviously here as always. Hello to you too, Matthew. All okay with you?
I'm here, yes, all good, thanks. Good to see everybody.
And we've got another special guest. This week, it is a singer, songwriter and musician about whom was once said that he has written some of the best love songs of the rock and roll era. You may dispute this, but I'm right and you're wrong, by none other than John Peel. And who are we to argue? Welcome to David Gedge of The Wedding Present. How are you, David?
Very well, thank you for inviting me.
That must be quite a feather in the cap to have John Peel as your champion.
It was, yeah. I remember because I heard him say it on the radio, and I thought, wow, that is pretty. You know, I'm obviously very flattered by that. And then a couple of years later, we were doing a radio advert because I had another band called Cinerama as well as Wedding Present, and we were doing an advert for an album. And they said, "Have you got any quotes by famous people about you or the band?" And I said, "Actually, I have." And I told them that one. And they said, "Well, we can't actually use it unless it's verified somehow." So I had to contact John Peel's office, his producer, and say, "A couple of years ago, John Peel said this about me on the radio. Can you get him to write that in a fax and sign it?" And because it was faxes in the 90s, and send it back to me, and then I can use it as proof. And they went, "Yeah, sure, we'll do that." So that was a weird conversation to have. But yeah, I've got the fax somewhere down there, which I've kept.
And you've not got it framed?
I should get it framed. I don't know why I haven't. It's because it's just in my drawer down there.
Oh yeah, that's brilliant. Did he do that for nothing?
Well, yeah, because he was just verifying that he'd said it. Really, I guess. So it didn't require a fee.
I can imagine there's an industry now for certain things like that. You know,
yeah, there is.
I know. Because of the internet, you know, you could be wishing several people happy birthday or happy anniversary at the moment and making a considerable amount of money because the number of people that follow you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So unlike you had to pay George Best £500 though, wasn't it?
We had to pay
back in the day. Oh, you had to pay somebody £500. You don't know what.
No, we had to pay George Best's agent, presumably, I think.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I mean the difference there was that people knew who we were. I don't think George Best did. So as far as he was concerned, it was just a case of there's a bunch of lads who've named their LP after you. Do you want to be on this photograph session? I guess he said, well, you know, I don't know anything about them. I don't know, you know, why I would do that, but it's an appearance fee thing, isn't it? I suppose you get paid for your time, really.
And you're just good reading to that. I know I've heard you talking about George being so iconic in the 60s, Manchester United being your team. Can you remember your first experience of, or why when United became your team? I know you were born in Leeds, but you moved to Manchester at a very early age.
Yeah.
Did somebody take you to a game, or did you see something on the television at the time? Or
it's weird because people have asked me that a few times, and I can't actually remember. I can't actually physically remember when I decided I was going to be a United fan. I've no memory. It's like one of those things. It's almost like I've always been a United fan, and I can't. You know, it's like I've always been in a band in some way. I never decided I'm going to be a musician. It's like those two things have both just appeared somehow, and I've just gone with it, really. But yeah, I grew up in Manchester from 1963 until I went back to Leeds actually to university, and he was the player of that era, really, the 60s and 70s, like you say. But also he kind of appealed to me more because obviously he was this fantastic footballer, but also because of his, the fact that he always had the long hair and his shirt was never tucked in, and he was always, getting told off for not being at practices because he was out with Miss Will the night before, or hanging out with the Beatles or something. And obviously, as a kid, that sounds great. It's almost like a pop star who's also a footballer. And I just thought that was, really inspiring. And then we saw the photograph. I saw the photograph that we ended up using on the cover. We went to a sports photographic agency, actually. And we just saw that cover and thought, we've got to use that. That's so iconic. And so I called the LP George Best, really.
Did you have a selection of pictures, David? Was there a selection that you went through, or was it just you saw that one and you thought, no, that's the one for us? Yeah,
we went to this agency and we said, because I didn't want to call the LP George Best. I was thinking about calling George Best, because I kind of like the name George Best as well for an LP title. I thought it sounded great. So we went to the sports agency and they said, well, here's and they showed the whole book, a folder full of photographs of him, and then we just saw that one. I think it was from 1974 against Leicester or something. So, and we just said, that's brilliant. How much do we have to pay, kind of thing. And so we used that. Yeah.
Do you follow the fortunes and misfortunes of Manchester United to the present day?
I have, yeah. I mean, I wasn't quite a big follower when you were there, actually, because that was
of course I was there.
Well, I bet you held the record for the most league goals since George Best, didn't you? When you first went there, it was the second season or something.
Yeah, the first season I did something there that George had done. Yeah, that's the only thing that's similar.
But that was
only other things. I've missed out on all those other activities. I've never done. I've never an album cover. I've not had an album named after me.
Yet.
Like that, No, well, I suppose, yeah. So,
that was that about 1987 or something, wasn't it?
87, yeah, when I first came.
That's exactly when our LP came out. So
yeah, I know.
At that time, I was very busy learning how to be a pop icon, really. So I didn't really follow it as much as I've done previously or subsequently, I suppose.
Yeah, but that was what your passion was, because I've read several times that at some point you knew that you were going to be involved in the music industry, be it what you're doing now or what you've done for a long time, or in some other facet of it. You mentioned DJing, which I think you did a little bit of as well as at some point.
Yeah, it's kind of one of like I was saying before, it's got, I didn't decide to do it. It was almost like it was predestined, and I've been lucky enough that I've managed to be in a group. But if I hadn't, I would have probably tried to be a writer or a DJ or something, a promoter or something. And I was just really obsessed with.
Can you remember an exact moment, or were you watching something? You listening to something? I can remember when I decided I wanted to become a professional football player, but. Is there a moment that you were listening to something, or you saw? I mean,
no, that's what I mean. No, there wasn't.
Nothing.
It's just always been there. I've always, played my parents' records. They used to have a lot of singles and stuff, and I used to watch every program on TV that was about music, Top of the Pops, and then later on the Ogre was Test and all that stuff. And then I discovered John Peel, so I listened to that religiously. I used to read every music paper. I was just obsessed with it, really. I still am, to be honest with you. So, it was kind of inevitable that I was going to be doing something.
Well, that might explain why I wasn't a musician, because my parents had what sort of things did they have? They didn't have very many things. In fact, I don't know why they had records, because we didn't have a record player. But one of the records I remember lying about was South Pacific, so such classics as that. So I don't know where they came from or why they were. It wasn't until I kept encouraging my parents to buy me a record player in the early 70s. They had something to play these on, and they weren't not as bad as you would. Well, you wouldn't probably go out and buy them, but they weren't that bad as was evident in the hit single that Captain Sensible had that came from that album.
Oh,
I think your stuff was a lot to do with records from the 50s and the early days, I think.
Exactly, yeah. They had a lot of, I mean, just singles, really. They had loads of singles, and again, like you say, they never used to play them. It was
No, my parents didn't play them because there's nothing to play them on.
Yeah, well, I used to play their singles on their record player, and I think, yeah, but I think it was from probably their teenage years. They were in the 50s, and then when they were early on in their marriage, they probably carried on buying singles, and then it kind of ended about 1963 or 4 or something, because they had the early Beatles singles, and that was it really. And then they had LPs as well. My dad used to like country music, and my mum was a big Tom Jones fan, so there was always kind of stuff to play really. And then obviously I started buying my own records as well.
You're going out on the road next week, going to Edinburgh, and then Manchester, Nottingham, where you're going to be playing, which I would consider a lot of iconic venues, the Liquid Rooms, the Ritz. Do you choose where you're in a situation where you can choose where you want to play, or say no to a certain venue? Can you just choose, or you can decide then? Sophie, they said that.
How it works is usually I say, we want to play a tour, or we want to do a series of concerts, and our agent will kind of find out what's available. And I've been doing it long enough now that I know, which are the good places and which are the not so good places. So he'll make suggestions, and I'll, a lot of it will be routing, because obviously you don't want to play Dover and then the next day Liverpool, so it'll be, finding appropriate venues, appropriate size venues on the route really. But I love doing it. It appeals to my mathematical nature, I think, putting it all together like that. Which brings me to a question actually, because didn't you do mathematics?
I did. You've got a degree in mathematics, haven't you?
Yeah. So when did you do that? Did you do that?
I was doing it at university part time in the early 80s, beginning of the 80s. Right. And then I was playing part time for Motherwell, and I was at full time university and part time with Motherwell. And I started to do a little bit better at football than I was at my studies. So.
Why did you choose to do mathematics? That's what people.
Well, I loved it. Yeah, because the same as anything else. If you ask anyone the sort of things that they loved at school and what they didn't like at school, it's always the same answer. That you had an inspirational teacher, an inspirational coach, whatever way you went look at it. Mm. And I had people, and I liked it, just the way my brain works, suits solving puzzles in that kind of logical kind of way. And I loved doing that. And when I went to university, I got kind of conned, because I wanted to do mathematics, and I wanted to do either physics or chemistry as well. And then I wanted to do another subject that was not easier, but something that was more complementary, like statistics or something like that, which I eventually did a bit of that. But my interview when I went to university was with the chemist, so she persuaded me that I should do chemistry as well as physics and maths, which was just nonsense, really. I couldn't. I'd been out of education for a year because I'd gone to Aston Villa for a year's full time football. So even in that year, the physics stuff was just I could not get. And then the chemistry was actually ended up being the easiest part of what I was doing. But then I went on to do statistics, and the statistic thing for me was again inspirational in that every single lecturer in mathematics wore, I don't know if it was the same for you time at Leeds, but in Glasgow University they all wore a suit with a waistcoat and a tie, and were all kind of tight really, or uptight or whatever. The statistics lecturer on my first day came in, and he had a big woolen jumper on with a gigantic hole in the sleeve. And they said, I just want to tell you about statistics. Hopefully you'll enjoy this. It's my intention that you should enjoy it. But let me tell you about statistics. Statistics are like a loose woman. Once you get your hands on them, you can do anything you want with them. I thought, I'm going to like this. It's included sitting in the pub one day counting the traffic. I thought, you can't get a better thing than this. I mean, nobody else had ever taken you outside a lecture theatre, and he's insisting you go and count the traffic,
And you've modelled yourself on that guy ever since, some people could argue.
I probably, yeah. But one of the things I wanted to say about that, we were just talking about that, because I know you were encouraged to, because you always did well at school, or you worked hard at school, and you got to, you went to university.
It's funny you say about, like having a certain teacher will influence that, and certainly my maths teacher at school was great. But it was more for me that I remember, like people used to dread maths. My mates would go, "Oh my God, it's double maths now." I just don't understand it. It's a nightmare. And I'd be like, actually, I think it's quite simple. I've never had a problem. I was getting A's all the time in the mock O levels and the A levels and whatever, and I never struggled with it, and it was always really obvious to me. So I just thought, I mean, to be honest, one of the main reasons I did mathematics at university is I thought, I've obviously got some kind of gift for this, so I'll go to university. It'll be dead easy. I'll have plenty of time to be in a band. Unfortunately, when I got to university, it wasn't that easy, as you know, and it was suddenly you're with a lot of people who are similarly talented at mathematics, and the work goes up. Not just a level, but a load of levels, and it got quite boring, to be honest, and quite difficult. I mean, I finished it in the end just because I thought, well, I'm here now, I might as well finish it because I've got something to fall back on if the musical career doesn't, pan out the way I wanted it to. But I suppose in retrospect now, I wish I'd done a more interesting degree, maybe French, or gone to France for a year or something. But
well, it didn't do you any harm, does it? But the same kind of thing for me is that's a bit of really of no benefit, apart from when the kids started bringing in more complicated maths and physics from school. One of the things about yourself is that you've always been encouraged to, same as me. I mean, I always wanted to play football, and I played football all the time. My parents wanted to keep me being realistic in that it was a difficult thing to become a professional football player. I just was very close to this idea. This is what I was going to do.
Yeah.
But my parents kept saying to me all the time, "Well, you could break your leg," encouraging me, that you've got to have something back off and all that kind of thing. And then to talk about having situations to do with work, I've only ever worked once, and I worked for 7 weeks in a supermarket, and I stacked the shelves in a back shift from like when the shop shut from about 7 till maybe 1 in the morning, and that's my only ever experience of work. Have you had any similar experiences of work?
I have, yeah. My dad used to be a butcher, and he used to work in a factory in Manchester. So he got me there as a labourer, holiday relief in the summer, which I absolutely hated, but it was quite well paid actually, and earned me a little bit of money, which I then used to buy musical equipment. But no, it was dreadful. And then when after I left university, in between the university ending and the band taking off, there was a couple of years where I was on the dole, and I got one of those. I don't know if they still do it. I'm sure they do, but they come and say, you have to take this job, otherwise your dole's going to get stopped. So for a few weeks, I was working at a catalogue dispatching company, electrical components or something. So they're really the only two jobs, like proper jobs I've had.
Talking about having your own money, where did you get the money to buy You Sexy Thing, your first single, and where did you buy it?
Probably pocket money, I imagine, because singles were only about 50 pence in those days.
Yeah,
I bought it in W.H. Smith's in the Arndale Centre in Middleton, in Manchester.
And then did you run home and just play it continuously?
Yeah, that's what you did with records in those days, wasn't it? It's all changed now. Then you heard a song on the radio, you thought, that's a great song, I want to own it. So you run down to the shop and you come back with this piece of plastic, which then you go through this ritual of putting the record player and playing. Now you just get it on your phone or your laptop or something. So it's all. I think some of the romance has probably disappeared out of it.
And did you ever lift the needle off and move it back to try and work out what the lyrics were? Did you write the lyrics down, or did you do that with any subsequent tunes or records or albums?
I'm sure I tried to get lyrics off records, yeah. But then there was, wasn't it Smash Hits who used to do the lyrics as well?
Yeah, they used to do that a bit. Yeah.
Do you still keep do you have any kind of vast collections? I know, Brian, you've got quite an impressive collection. We've had Pat Nevin on the show, and he's got an equally vast vinyl collection. Is it something that means a lot to you, David, or is it?
I did have, but shamefully, actually, I got rid of it all because I lived in the United States of America on 2 separate occasions for a year or two. And it was just a case of I had like a load of, like a wall full of shelves of vinyl, and then it was a case of putting all that in storage, going to live in America, coming back, getting out of storage, so putting it back on the shelves alphabetically, and then going to America again, so getting it off, putting it back in. And I just thought, this is stupid. I'm not even playing these records because I've got an iPod now, but I'm just putting them in storage and getting them out again. So yes, I sold them all really. And I kind of regret it now because obviously it'd be nice to have a big vinyl collection, but I'm not sure I would still play it even,
You can always start again.
And people have been doing, haven't they? I mean, vinyl is back in force now, as we've found, because we're doing this singles thing next year, where we release a single every month, and there's no vinyl production.
Left.
Yeah, because all the factories closed down, I think, in the 80s, because vinyl obviously dived and people buying CDs and stuff. And then I don't think anybody wants to start a vinyl factory in case it's just a fashion. So there's like a limited number of pressing plants, and so if you want to get a single press now, you're being quoted like, oh, it's going to be 7 months or something. So
to get one.
Yeah, that's just one. Yeah. So technically a bit difficult, but people, we used to sell a lot of vinyl, and then it died off, and people wanted CDs. And now, if we go on tour, we have a box of CDs, a box of vinyl. Nobody's interested in CDs anymore. They want the vinyl. Even if they bought the record 30 years ago, they want it again on the new vinyl. Because the one's worn out or something.
No, because when I first started buying records, it would be just after you, but from 78 onwards. It was because of the oil situation in the world. It was too expensive to make the records that they made in the 50s and 60s. So the vinyl that you bought then wasn't crap, really.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. So that's why they turn around and say now on lots of different things, they mention the actual thickness or the vinyl that it's on. Can't remember exactly what it is.
180 grams.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, exactly. Stuff. Whereas when I first did it was probably newer as well, a bit more flimsy.
Yeah, that is true. I do remember. Yeah, because I did keep a few of those old LPs, and they do feel a bit thin. I didn't know that. That's.
I'm full of all sorts of shit about all sorts of stuff. It's not. That was the reasons why. See, when you write a song, right, hard, fast, and beautiful, right, which I think is an incredible song. And do you get people that are close to you asking, or whether it's in the past or the present, asking, "Is that about me? Is that how you feel about me?"
Yeah, they do.
Is that a problem?
I mean, it can be occasionally, because obviously my style has always been very personal, because I've by and large kind of drawn from my own experiences, because I think that's the best way I can write, and that's the songs lyrics I've been most kind of proud of and happy with, the ones where it's been a situation that's happened to me. But so it can be a bit uncomfortable. It's like showing somebody a diary almost, really, and then they go, "No, that was me." But then weirdly, people do get it wrong. People say, "Oh, that's about me, that song, isn't it?" And I go, "Actually, no, it wasn't that one." But this one is. I think maybe I managed.
I've got a less flattering one about you.
Exactly, yeah. So maybe I managed to cloak them in enough kind of, because obviously it's not exactly as it happens. It's got a rhyme and it's got a scan and all the rest of it. So I'll change certain elements of it, and maybe it disguises it enough that people don't really exactly realise. But then there are a few really obvious ones where people will be, and to be honest with you, even if it is kind of less flattering, I don't think people mind. I think people feel kind of quite touched that they're immortalised in a song or something, or that they've had such an effect on me that I've actually been inspired to write a lyric about them. So I've never had a real problem about it. I've never had people say, "Oh, I can't believe you've written that song about me," and and it's terrible. But so I've never had that. So
I was thinking more about the lyrics and the intent. That was rather than the melody.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Yeah, with the lyrics. Yeah, but touch wood, no one's ever kind of complained to me.
Why do you wish you'd have written, if this is correct, Monday Morning 5:19?
I just thought it was kind of like one of my songs that I hadn't written. That was actually,
yeah. Which leads me to: could you empathise and was there a certain sentiment to the lyrics?
Yeah, certainly. It was definitely.
Did you see yourself there? Or have you? Yeah.
I mean, that's the beauty of a good lyric, I think, as I'm concerned. You know, there's obviously certain writers who will use metaphor and poetry and stuff, but my lyrics are little stories, and I want people to see themselves in that story, and in the same way that, you know, it could have happened to them, or it has happened to them, and I'm just kind of reminding them of it. And I think that song, you know, it felt like I was watching a film. You know, I could almost kind of visualize the story happening. And it's such a great tune and great arrangement and a great sound as well. So it was, it's one of my favourite songs of all time now.
And they didn't quite make it, did they, Rialto?
No, they didn't. Yeah, surprisingly.
Yeah, I was surprised when I'd heard the song. I listened to it again today, but it did occur to me that it was very much like the sentiment that you're very much attached to in your songwriting.
Mm. And the sound as well, it kind of, from memory, there's strings and stuff on it, isn't there? Which was kind of, my other band, Cinerama, was kind of based on that kind of filmic sound as well, with the strings and the orchestra.
Yeah, that was to do with, is that anything to do with John Barry?
Yeah, partly, yeah. I think, you know, like growing up, I used to always love those John Barry soundtracks, Ennio Morricone, the spaghetti western ones as well. And after a few years of doing the wedding present, I decided that I'd like to do something else that was kind of maybe based on those kind of songwriters, really. So I decided to do another band for a while.
David, you're out on the road with the wedding present, doing a 30th anniversary tour of your 1991 album Sea Monsters this month. I know you've previously done similar anniversary tours for the George Best album. So was this just the obvious follow-on from that, or was there any other motivation for revisiting and re-airing this album?
It was partly because it was the 30th anniversary, so it seemed like an obvious time to do it. But you know, we have done it before, actually. But more than that, yeah. I mean, this album, Sea Monsters, kind of lends itself to this format in a way, because it's got a certain sound to it, and you know, I don't really say this about all the other wedding present records, but Sea Monsters has this certain feel to it, and I don't know how to explain it really, because when we wrote it, we just had a bunch of songs and went away and recorded them, but the finished kind of product it sounds like it sounds a bit pretentious, but it sounds like one piece of music divided into 10 tracks, and it's, you know, that's where we play it live as well. We actually join it all together now, because when I used to chat between the songs, it didn't sound right because it kind of broke the mood a bit or something. So it's become this one thing, you know, it's almost like one song, you know, as I say, and it just works really well live. It's very, I find it very emotional actually to do that one. It's not like you just played a bunch of songs. It's actually like an experience.
Mm. Well, I mean, you said about it being emotional. I was going to ask you, what memories does playing this album again evoke? I mean, suppose you not only have to practice the songs again, but you probably have to look back at each one as like snapshots in an old photo album, and you know, you kind of remember what you were doing and, you know, where you were in your life at each individual stage of these songs as you went through them.
Yeah, it's quite nostalgic, really. You know, like I say, it's, you know, writing a song is a bit like writing a diary. So it's like looking at a diary from 30 years ago. And obviously people change. So I've changed quite a bit. You know, I know totally different people. You know, the whole band's changed, obviously, since then, apart from me. And so, yeah, you know, I'm singing these songs, hearing this music, and it puts me straight back there, straight away. I don't have to kind of think about it. I'm just straight away. I can remember, you know, where I was when I recorded this, or even wrote it, kind of thing. What is interesting, though, is the way that, obviously, with a different lineup, they interpret it slightly differently because everyone's got their own styles and stuff. So that's quite interesting as well. You know, we'll want to play it as close to the original as possible, but then like a different guitarist or a different drummer or whatever will just slightly change things. And it's kind of interesting to see where it goes, off this path. You've got this road, but it just veers over here, then veers back over here, because it's different people doing it and they've got a different interpretation of it. So I love it. I love doing it.
And as well as the tour, you've had a new album out this year, Lockdown and Stripped Back. And as you mentioned earlier, you're going to be releasing a new 7-inch vinyl single every month in 2022. Tell us about the album, and also the where did the idea come from for this one single per month for 2022?
Well, the Lockdown album was because I do my own festival here in Brighton actually every year now, and it's just a little like a weekend thing where bands I like and friends and stuff play. And obviously we haven't done it for the last couple of years because of the pandemic. So on the first year it was missed, we decided to do an online version. So obviously it was during lockdown, so we decided to all record at home acoustically and then send these files around, and then eventually someone will kind of edit it together. And it worked really well, actually. It was an interesting way of, it was like an approach we wouldn't have necessarily thought about doing because of the conditions. We were pushed down this kind of route. And so we did it for the festival in the August, and then people said, "Oh, you got to release this. It's I want it on an album." So we decided to get it, properly mastered and released, and we did another one as well. We've actually, which is in production now, like a volume 2 of it, because it was very popular. So that was that. So we did that little kind of it's just basically acoustic versions of old Wedding Present songs, really, and Cinerama. And then 30 years ago, in 1992, we did a single every month. It's called The Hit Parade. We did a 7-inch single every month. And again, I suppose inspired by this year being the 30th anniversary of Sea Monsters, I was thinking maybe we should do something to commemorate the 30th anniversary of The Hit Parade. But then I thought I didn't want to do it again exactly because the Hit Parade Part 2 or whatever, it didn't appeal to me. So we just thought we'd do something which was similar but different, really. It's kind of a nod to that idea in that it's a series of 7-inch singles, which we obviously started doing now. We're kind of recording them and mixing them for next year. And yeah, so the single every month are built into an attractive series.
And those 12 hits you had, put you alongside Elvis Presley as the most hits in a calendar year, when they did have proper charts that involved selling records.
I think because he had 12 hits in that year as well, but some of his were re-releases actually. So I could have just put it out.
So you're claiming on your own. You want to better get on is clear that one up, they're not allowed.
Get his book of it singles there. I'm sure he sold a few more than we did, but
maybe not.
Original singles that were hits that year, but
and they're all going to be on vinyl, I believe. No, they're all vinyl. These new ones. It's the same as last time. 12 singles, 24 songs.
12 singles. Same as 30 years ago, just vinyl 7-inch singles. That is one of the things that's exactly the same. And we're not even doing download codes because it's just too complicated. So you can hear them on Spotify or whatever, or Apple Music or all those things. But we just thought for the actual physical release, it will just be a 7-inch single like it was last time. But they won't be hits this time, because I can tell you that for a fact. Because last time, they were only available in the shop, so people would go to the record shop and buy the 7-inch single. But because we've got, so we say, a slightly older audience now, we didn't feel like it was, everyone didn't want to be queuing up outside their local HMV for the on the Monday morning or the Friday morning for the records to come out. So we decided to do a mail order version as well, so you can subscribe for the whole year and get them by mail order. And that doesn't qualify for chart positions. So yeah, we've lost out this time. No hits on this one, unless we get 1 million streams on Spotify. That's where you get hits now, isn't it? I think you get.
I don't know. I don't really understand how it works now. So stop listening to the
nowadays
stuff a long time ago.
Because nowadays you can get Ed Sheeran, and he puts an album out, and all the tracks will be in the top 20 because
of the
but they're all been streamed. So it's a bit of a strange situation, isn't it?
Life with Brian, life with Brian, life with Brian.
We can't have you on, David, without asking a question. I don't know whether you wanted to ask this one, Brian, but I'll ask it. It appears there's two people around this table, and it's not me and it's not Mark, that once received postcards from Morrissey. True or false?
Well, yeah, I did receive a couple of postcards from Morrissey.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I would like to still have them, but they went missing during a flitting.
What did he say
at some point?
What did he say on yours? Then?
Oh, mine's is, but as far as I remember, complimentary about something to do with football. But in the typical kind of Morrissey off the ball kind of way, more poetic rather than in little scribbles and dots. So I would really like to have. I'd like to have those little scribbles and things like that on it as well. So
did he send these to you care of Manchester United? Or
yeah,
did he know where you lived? Or?
No, I didn't. No,
it wasn't skulking around.
It wasn't like the internet where you could find out where people live. No, I just sent them and I replied back to it because you're skeptical, aren't you? I mean, it's like that thing about when you're asking about, or the company are asking for evidence that John Peel did exactly say this. You're like, this could be some kind of just crank that's writing to you, And then I wrote back. But the address was in Bowden, which I know he did have an address in Bowden and Altrincham, So I wrote, and he wrote back, and then the romance just fizzled out.
I mean, the reason I asked David is because I saw a story in the press a few months back about how there was talk of you receiving postcards from Morrissey or some kind of interaction between the two of you, and it was debatable, to say the least.
Well, that's it. Yeah, I mean, it's funny that Brian said that because I did question the authenticity of my postcard because basically the story is, what was it now?
Was it something to do with you being in the American embassy or something? And that
was a different time. That was a different time. Yeah, this was earlier. I think he did say something in the NME or something, which was a criticism of me or the band or something. And I can't remember if I reacted to that. And then, but then I got this postcard, perfectly, from Morrissey saying, sorry for slagging you off in the newspapers. That's what we do as pop stars, kind of thing. Again, written in a kind of flamboyant. And he has very distinctive handwriting, doesn't he?
Yeah.
That kind of weird spiderly scroll. Yeah. And I had a friend who was a big Smiths fan, and she said, "Yeah, it's definitely Morrissey's handwriting." So then I was, oh well, that's quite cool. I've got a postcard from Morrissey, and I was telling people, and then a few weeks later, Morrissey was in the press saying, "Oh, and now David Gedge is saying he's got a postcard from me," which he has. I never sent him a postcard, so I was like, "Okay, well, so now I don't know whether it was him or whether it wasn't him or not really." But
have you not got the postcard either?
I haven't got mine.
I'm wondering whether these postcards were like Mission Impossible and they self-destructed after a period of time.
I've no idea what happened to mine.
Oh, it was invisible ink or something like that. It was just I've got a blank postcard that might have been from.
So was yours a Morrissey picture on the front as well?
There were
pictures.
No, I think there were different. There was a couple of different ones. I don't think he sent me any pictures of him of himself.
If you ever want to send him one back, Brian, we do have our own Life with Brian postcards, which I'm holding up now for everyone to see. So if you've still got that address in Altrincham, and if he's happy to still live there.
I don't know where it is now. No, I'm sure it'll be on the internet somewhere though.
I'm sure Pat Nevin will probably know.
Yeah, Pat's probably standing outside there now. Did you? I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you went to South Africa as a child for a period of time.
For a year.
What was that like? Can you remember it? I know.
It's an interesting link. Is that because of Morrissey?
No.
Because obviously these days Morrissey is his political views are probably suspect in some.
No, they are suspect. They're not probably.
Yeah, but no, yeah, my parents emigrated when I was about 10, I think, 1970. So and we lived there for a year, and then they came back. And it was a strange experience, because actually for a kid it was great, because it was a nice climate. I think the schools finished at 2 p.m, so you were out, and I was on the beach every day reading comics. It was brilliant, and I kind of completely unaware of apartheid because we lived in a white area. So the only time we saw people who weren't white, it was shop assistants or refuse collectors or whatever. And so I wasn't really aware of the whole thing. It was kind of you kind of was aware of it, but it wasn't in the day-to-day kind of life that we led, really. So it was only after I came back that I felt like I actually joined the anti-apartheid movement when I came back. When I went to university, because obviously it was a terrible situation. I suppose I should have suspected, because my dad was just like a normal butcher. We were just a normal working class family in Manchester. And then we went to South Africa, and suddenly he got a better job, and he was the head of a factory or something. Presumably purely because he was white, really, because they wanted white people to be the administrative classes, if you like. So yeah, it was an interesting period. It was. I've written a lot about it in my autobiography, actually, because it was a fascinating time.
Yeah, with regards to the comics you're reading, was there still the Dandy or the Beano?
My grandmother used to send me out British comics every month. It must have cost her a fortune, but the Buster it was, and I can't remember the names of them now. Core,
Wizard, Buster, Dandy, Beano.
Dandy and Beano. But I was actually, that's where I discovered American comics. Actually, it was because there's a little bookshop there in town where we lived, and they had a supply of like Marvel and DC comics. So that's when I got into Superman and all that stuff, all that rubbish.
Well, it's not rubbish, is it? Because it's made. It was very entertaining.
Yeah,
to look at it and read that, and then you get on. It's a huge industry now. Even for certainly, you can get your own memoir in comic book form now.
Yeah.
I know you've been doing that sort of stuff for a while, but you've actually put it together as a book now, haven't you?
Yeah, no, I love comics. In fact, there was a massive argument when we came back from South Africa, because I'd acquired this collection by then, and my dad was saying, "We're not paying for you to, because obviously it's expensive. It's by the weight of the." I was gutted, because I was like, "Well, we're just going to throw them away," and no, but we want to take them all the way home to England. And they did in the end. They relented. I don't know. I must have been so upset that they let me have them. But yeah, so I've always loved comics. I've always loved graphic novels, and now I'm in one. Hey.
Yeah, oh, that's insane. Yeah.
So that was good.
Tell us about that, Dave. What's that?
Well, it's just because we. How did it start? Oh, that was it. Yeah. So our old bass player, Terry DeCastro, she was in Cinerama actually, and then she's in The Wedding Present, and she wanted to write my biography from the point of view of kind of meeting me, joining the band, and then kind of interviewing me. And so we did it for a while, and she acquired all this stuff, this text basically, and she interviewed my parents and all these kind of things. But then I don't know, it didn't feel right somehow, and the best bits of it we felt were that, because she'd always wanted to include some comic kind of references in there, and we thought they were the best bits, and we just thought, well, let's do the whole thing as a comic book. And I've got a friend called Lee Thacker, he was a teacher, he's retired now, but he's a comic book artist. And I just said, do you want to draw these comics, these stories, if I send you the text? And he said yes. And so a few years ago, we started doing a little comic every now and again when we'd acquired enough stories. And we done it for about, 6-7 years, and we decided we'd compile them. And so it's the first volume, came out last year, and it's in chronological order now. So it starts off from me being born up to probably the formation of the group and the first few singles. So it covers the South Africa time and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so it's my autobiography in comic book form, basically.
There you go, Brian. When your highly anticipated
I've been in the
autobiography
comic.
comes out.
I've been a comic book character
You have?
in a fanzine, yeah.
Oh,
One of the United fanzine where I had a talking stomach.
oh, of course, yeah.
I would like to have get. I think I've only got one of those. I think it was Red Issue. It was the fanzine, and there's a little, only very, very basic, but tells us the actual story quite amusingly, you know. So I can't remember it, but I know it's a talking stomach anyway. So that was partly that I had a healthy appetite, you know, because of what I looked like, you know, which wasn't quite the, you know, but I enjoyed it. I'd like to have several more. So if anybody else has got any other versions out there, they can post. Maybe there was only one. I don't know. There only was one. But no, yeah, it's, I've always liked a similar idea that in the when I had the testimonial program had a comic in the middle of it as part of that kind of thing, telling a little story about me as well. It was illustrated by Tony Husband. So,
I love it because I send these words, text, the story. Me and Terry kind of write together. We send it to Lee, and then it comes back and he's done his first pencils, and it's brilliant to see it. You know how it's evolved from just a few words on the page to this kind of work of art, basically. You know, right. And it's like a song. You know, you kind of write like elements of a song, you come up with the words and a few chords, and then when it all comes together with the band and it becomes a record, it becomes more than some of the parts in a way. So it's I love doing it.
Do you still recommend American Murder Ballads to drive to?
Interesting series of questions. I do.
I'm going to go and get that then.
My girlfriend got me it's a double CD, I think, and yeah, they're great. I love them.
Right, I'm going to go and get that. I'm going to do a bit more driving there.
Okay, something for a bit of fun now, David. We'd like you to pick your fantasy five-a-side football team. And Choccy, we want you to choose your fantasy five-piece band, and feel free to advise each other or critique each other's selections. David, you're our guest. So would you like to go first?
What's the criterion? The criteria for this then?
Anybody you like, but you've got to have a goalkeeper.
So
I'm not picking, I'm just picking music, aren't I?
Yeah.
Right. I'll have John Bonham on drums.
Is that the equivalent of the goalkeeper?
He's probably the goalkeeper, yeah.
Yeah.
Alex Stepney.
Oh, nice one. I'll have David Lewis Gedge as my front man singer.
Oh well, in that case, I've got to have.
No, you don't have to have me at all. No, you've got to be great. No, you got to go for some. I've got it in first. You got to.
Well, I don't know, man.
It wouldn't be a bad five-a-side player, I'd say, Brian.
Yeah.
Decent in midfield, can know what the goal is.
Yeah.
So that's a drummer and a goalkeeper, and you both picked an outfield player.
I've got to say George Best, haven't I?
Yeah, nice. Yeah, good one. I would have Manny on bass.
Of course, friend of the show.
I've got a drummer and I've got two more, haven't I? I've got rhythm and lead guitar. Is that there?
Yeah, that's correct. If you want to go down that route, you might want to have a triangle player or a saxophonist.
Music. There's no rules, is there?
Yeah.
There's no rules.
I haven't said that. Yeah, you're talking about having no rules. You know, a little story about your Ukrainian folk songs, which is around about 89, 90 or something like that as well. I used to play that in the car. When we used to car share, Jim Layton, Gary Palston and I, and whoever was driving, it was their car, so they were entitled to play whatever music they were playing. Jim would always Simply Red. Like, they wouldn't change it. They don't change the CD. I'd never change it. Simply Red. And Pally must have had Sting's first album. And it must have been in the car for 3 years. Never changed it. Single CD player. And this was the only thing that would play. So I used to mix it up all the time. I put things on. I used to think my taste in music was weird anyway, but it was even weirder when I was playing some of your creating folk. And they were like, where the fuck do you get these things from? I said, this is a really popular. This is the indie bands, you know. And they're like, no, we're not. If I'm Leeds, I'm telling you, no, this is rubbish. But when you play it, what it reminds me of, and one of the reasons I listened to it, I really liked it, was music comes from different places, but music like that reminds me very much of when you were playing, like the Pogues. I love the Pogues for the same kind of thing, playing things fast. So there's that kind of punk idea, isn't it? That play it fast and
it's exciting.
To be that great about playing, about the energy in it, and I loved. I just love the idea that you've just done George Best, which was a brilliant indie album, and then now you're playing, which I think was at the behest of Peely as well, wasn't it? Because
well, it was we did them at Peel sessions. Yeah, I mean,
for me, that to play that, you know, and then going thinking I was even madder than they thought.
Was that your way of getting out of driving to training?
No, because they were still very tight when it came to that. Was even though we had to suffer each other's music, we were quite happy to still share the trip there and back, you know. So of a day, you know. So yeah.
Okay, so we're still waiting on two more additions here.
I'll have George Harrison.
Okay, so we've still got two outfield players for you, David.
Pele. I'm just going to make a good team.
This is a hell of a team.
Yeah, well, I might as well. Why not?
Yeah. So that you got one left each. Brian, you've got
I'm going for David Gilmour.
Okay.
So line up that. And one left for David. I mean, you've got Pele, you've got George Best, you've got Brian McClare, you've got Alex Stepney. I mean, who's missing there?
Maybe I should go for someone a bit more contemporary. These are all old players, aren't they, at the moment? You know, didn't mean to say it like that.
Retro, I think, is the kind way.
Bruno Fernandes. Let's say that.
Yeah. Two brilliant lineups there.
A bit random, mine, I'm afraid.
Yeah. Well, that's how we like it.
McClare's mailbag. McClare's mailbag. McClare's mailbag.
Another delivery of questions has arrived via the hashtag #AskChocky. Matthew, if you please.
Yes, and here's an interesting one for David from Chris Etchingham to kick us off this week. And he says, is it true that Courtney Love smacked you in the face backstage at the Reading Festival?
Kind of, yeah. She basically, I can't remember what year it was, but I don't know if we even played there or whether I was just there as a fan, but I think she was there. And because I remember seeing her across the kind of, you know, the area, the backstage area, and saying, "Is that Courtney Love over there?" And I thought, I've got to go and say hello, because I used to love the band Hole, that she was her band basically. And so I went up and introduced myself. Oh no, that was it. Everett True, the NME writer, was there, so I got him to, because I'm rubbish at kind of going up to people and saying anything, so I got him to introduce me to her. And she said, "Oh yeah, didn't you work with Steve Albini?" And I said, "Yeah, he just recorded our album, Sea Monsters, funnily enough." And so yeah, she kind of slapped me across the face and said, "Yeah, can't remember, something like, you're a naughty boy" or something. I think at the time she was having this beef with Albini. There's an ongoing argument between them, and so she kind of saw me as on his side, I guess. So she didn't like that, but yeah. So that.
Yeah, so true story.
Yeah,
it did happen. Did it hurt?
Can't remember it hurting. It was a playful slap.
A playful slap. That's fair enough. Okay. This question comes from Mark's mate Paul, actually, and it's to both of you. They said, "What are your favourite football songs or references to football in a song?"
Favourite football songs.
My favourite football song is a band called the Hitchers, and it's called the song's called Gordon Strachan. It's a brilliant.
I need to look out for that one.
Yeah, I think it's definitely one for your playlist, Brian.
I mean, as much as my favourite song that involves music, because it's such a good song, but I would refuse to admit it at the time, is World in Motion.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
You know you're never going to be allowed back in Scotland after that.
That was me. I always thought you were going to have On the March with Ali's Army or whatever it was. But yeah, well, I'll give you that one. I mean, I think World in Motion, I think you've got to agree, is just a great pop song.
Well, that's a problem, you know, because I remember talking to the time, I think Brian Robson still about things. Got the time, so I'm telling you, this is a fantastic, wonderful record you've got here. It's going to be a massive hit. And again, looking at it going, we have no idea who these people are, you know. So that tickled me as well, you know. That's that thing, right? Brilliant, yeah, you know. So.
No, we'll give you that one, World in Motion. And on the back of that one, I'm just thinking, David, have you ever been tempted to write a football song or a song about football or, you know, a World Cup theme or anything?
I haven't actually, no. That's a very good question. It's never occurred to me to do that. I mean, they are by and large terrible, aren't they? Usually, maybe that's what's put me off. But although I really like the Ian Brody one, the Lightning Seeds one. I mean, obviously everyone likes that, don't they? It's become a standard now. They play every time, every tournament. I think that's another great pop song.
I suppose it could be quite lucrative, a bit like writing a Christmas hit, couldn't it? I mean, if you time it right and you get it.
Yeah, but I like the working title of that song better.
What was the working title?
It was 3 lambs on their chest.
That was it.
Right, we can't conclude the mailbag without something from our old mate Cumbrian Dave, can we? I mean, well, no, we can't, can we? And he asked you both, which bands are you currently listening to and enjoying at the moment?
Well, I find it quite difficult because a lot of kind of new bands always sound like old bands to me, but not quite as good. You know, I think there's I've said this a few times now, but I think there's kind of I feel like we've come as far as we can go with drums, bass, and guitars. So whatever band I hear always sounds like a 70s punk band or the Pixies or, you know, a disco band or, you know, it never feels like the first time I heard the Pixies, it felt like something completely new and original. I don't hear that anymore. Apart from one band from Brighton, funnily enough. Well, I didn't know that at the time. They're called Black Midi. And I saw them, we played at a festival in Barcelona with them. And they blew me away. I thought they were great. It was the first time for years where I watched a band where I didn't quite know what was going on, you know, where it was going to, and quite surprising. So, you know, they're not the most commercial sounding band, but I think they're brilliant.
What about you, Brian?
Well, again, I find myself going backwards more often than not, and I was just this morning I took out of my friend's son's CD collection. He's into a lot of metal stuff, so a lot of stuff I'd never heard of, and I took out My Bloody Valentine, opened the case. It was no CD in it, but the one that I did have a CD in it was Pablo Honey.
So classic.
I put that was what I was listening to as my driving CD this morning. So, I mean, I heard that on the radio yesterday they were playing on Steve Lamacq plays an album right through, and they're playing Kid A, and I've always found that really difficult to listen to. Although there was one or two, so you'd float me in the car and you listen to it. But when I saw this one, I thought, I'll have a little listen to that again. It's which first got me into Radiohead, you know, and how good it was as a first album.
Okay, gents, that's brought us to the end of the episode. David, it's been great having you on with us to chat music and some football. Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And please tell us where we can find the tour details for tickets, etc., and also where to look out for the new music and the 12 singles for 2022.
Yeah, it's mostly on our website, really. That's where we put everything in. It's just theweddingpresent.co.uk.
Brilliant. Brian, Matthew, thanks to you both.
No problem.
Thank you very much.
And of course, thanks to you out there for listening. We're back again soon, so keep an eye on our Twitter, which is @BrianMcClarePod for details. And of course, subscribe on your favourite podcast provider. Bye for now.
Life with Brian, talking films or music. Life with Brian, talking TV.